Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And yes, you read the title, you know what I'm reviewing next, and as was teased in the last review video, So, Artmen themselves, because with the numerous of stop-motion animated masterpieces they've done, from short films to doing feature-length films, one of their characters in particularly, well, that started off coming straight from these two guys in a close shave, and he would become a very memorable character, and he would find his way, years later, having his own piece of material, which, it would be this series of episodes and such, these, stories that would feature this sheep and all the other sheeps in this farm, and with the farm dog Bitzer, And, with that, because it seemed as though that maybe one of these days, possibly, this beloved stop-motion sheep character could get a movie of his own. And in 2015, he so did. So that's right, guys. I am finally reviewing from 2015, and seeing as how it is celebrating its anniversary, yes, Shaun the Sheep movie. Yep, Shaun the Sheep movie. The titled character himself, our favorite, beloved, stop-motion sheep character straight from good old Artman. So the first things I have to say about Shaun the Sheep movie itself, well, now obviously for me, and I'm sure the same goes for a lot of you, I remember watching the show itself, Shaun the Sheep. I remember when Disney Channel showed it, and especially during, commercial break. Because I remember during commercial break, an episode of Shaun the Sheep would play, and I just remember, finding myself enjoying Shaun the Sheep. And at that time when I watched Shaun the Sheep, I didn't fully realize that Shaun the Sheep came from the same studio of Wallace and Gromit and such. But, a little later, I started to fully realize, so, one of those things. So, again, I found myself enjoying Shaun the Sheep, watching various episodes of Shaun the Sheep itself, and even when, say, the spin-off of Shaun the Sheep happened with Timmy, the little baby sheep, if you remember that. And when, Shaun the Sheep kept going with, the next seasons and so on. And, well, in 2015, we would long behold get a movie starring Shaun himself. And I remember when the trailers came out, I remember seeing them. I did not see this in theaters, unfortunately, but sometime later, around, say, when it came out on digital and so on, I did then watch it. And, having done a rewatch of this, and on account of me reviewing it, you're watching it, I gotta say, Shaun the Sheep movie itself, it's a very entertaining, delightful piece of a stop-motion animated feature from Artman itself, Everything about it does not disappoint, and with what goes on with the characters of Shaun the Sheep, the big adventure they get themselves into, and, with its storyline, the fact that, as we all know, when it comes to Shaun the Sheep, the characters don't really talk. They just, grunt and, especially that goes for the human characters. And the fact that this movie does a heck of a great job not to give us dialogue, but still managing to deliver a pretty good story. And that's cool to see, because, as I sometimes point out, a 99% score on Rotten Tomatoes? That's good. That is good. Obviously, for Rotten Tomatoes themselves, obviously because, them loving anything Artman, so, But, point being is that, with what the Shaun the Sheep movie delivers, with its story, its characters, new faces that step in, the antagonist in this film, and they end up in the big city, and, all throughout they're trying to locate and bring back their beloved farmer, and, the hilarious moments the fantastic stop-motion animation from Artman themselves, and some emotional moments here and there, and the music and score, some songs here and there, just, yeah. It's amazing how Shaun the Sheep movie turned out, not a disappointment, and it was great to see that, Shaun the Sheep himself, whom first started off, hanging out with these two, then he would get his own piece of material on the small screen, but then he would go big time on the big screen. Yeah, that's great to see. With the very small adventures he had on the small screen, but then going bigger, a big-time adventure he would have on the big screen. Yeah. And, the fact that, it's great to see for Shaun the Sheep movie being nominated for Best Animated Feature, and I remember that, and I'm sure you do too. You had Woody and Buzz present the nominees for Best Animated Feature of 2015, and, because unfortunately, Shaun the Sheep movie lost to Inside Out. I mean, Inside Out's fantastic, yeah, but that also goes for Shaun the Sheep. Just overall, even though it didn't win the Oscar, still, be nominated, still great, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, overall, Shaun the Sheep movie itself, a very entertaining, delightful, cute, stop-motion animated feature from Artman themselves, without a doubt. Okay, so with the first things I've had to say about Shaun the Sheep movie now out of the way, now as always, for me, read the description / the story. All is well at Mossy Bottom Farm. I think I said that right. Except for the fact that the animals will do anything to get out of work. So Shaun the Sheep and his scheming friends devise a plan to put their master to sleep. However, the ruse backfires when the poor farmer finds himself transported to the big city, having lost his memory. Now it's up to Shaun, Timmy, the lamb, Shirley, the ewe and the rest of the gang to travel to the metropolis and get him back, while not landing in even more trouble themselves. Yeah. And of course, Bitzer tagging along as well. Well, he's the first one to go, but until I get into that some more. Okay. So now with reading the description / the story out of the way, let's dive into the film itself and break it down. Okay, here we go. So yeah, I mean, with the way the film starts off, well, because, we actually get to see a little bit of like a backstory, a little bit of an origin story where, we see younger versions of Shaun, Bitzer, and the farmer. And again, even though they do not have dialogue, they still have voices, obviously. So Shaun, as well as Timmy, the little lamb, both being voiced by Justin Fletcher, the farmer and Bitzer both being voiced by John Sparks. And also Timmy's mom and Meryl being voiced by Kate Harbour, and, the other, various sheep, because the voices that they have, and, mostly they just bah, so, anyways, so, getting to see younger versions of, say, like, baby Shaun, baby Bitzer, and a younger version of the farmer, the early days, and when, what it was like on the farm, everybody was happy and such. But even after that, present time on the farm, well, basically a montage of it's the same thing every day. They wake up, they get all mixed up and such, and doing the business on the farm. The sheep doing their business, the farmer and Bitzer, keeping the sheep in line and such. And again, this happens day after day after day after day. And even some of the other, animals and creatures that reside on the farm, like there's the spider, he gets a few moments here and there. And also the rooster getting a few moments too. And, at one point, Shaun, he's just had enough of this. They all have, but especially Shaun, especially how Shaun feels towards the farmer as of now. Just not very pleased. Golly, even like a shot where the farmer, he almost looks like he's the devil, because his hair's kind of sticking, like devil horns, and with a pitchfork. But then one day, Shaun decides that he and the rest of his flocked sheep pals will have a day to themselves, have a day off, and they plan to distract Bitzer And by distracting Bitzer, they will also manage to find a way to get the farmer to go to sleep, and thus they can do their business, have their day off. And thus, yeah, because Shaun at one point, he made a deal with a duck, giving him some bread, and because the duck, we see the duck distracting Bitzer with a bone. And one of the songs, actually it's one of my favorites, it reminds me of like a bit of a disco vibe or something, you know, you're mine, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I think it's pretty catchy. Again, it just gives me like a disco vibe or something. Don't you think? Just, yeah. So again, the duck distracting Bitzer with a bone, and while that's going on, Shaun and his fellow sheep, you know, when the farmer comes out, Bitzer's nowhere in sight. He's trying to whistle for Bitzer, but Bitzer does not respond and does not show up. Well, the farmer proceeds, but then, yeah, the sheep trying to make their getaway, but this is all part of a trap, you know, a bait and such, and by making the farmer go to sleep, the farmer telling them to get back inside the farm, they hop, and thus, yeah, the farmer's counting the sheep, which causes him to, yeah. So, the plan goes as they hoped, you know, Shaun and his fellow sheep gang. So, they put him in this caravan, they lock it up, they close the blind, and they draw what looks like nighttime. So, with that out of the way, now the sheep can have the day to themselves and just mess around, do whatever. However, a little later, Bitzer did find out what was going on. He has the duck with him, and yeah, he's not satisfied with Shaun and the other sheep, their behavior. So, they take Bitzer to where the farmer is. However, the caravan is locked. It's stuck. You know, Bitzer cannot get it open. And Shaun and his fellow sheep, they try to help, but the knob just breaks off, and the caravan, which was parked, yeah, it's let loose, and then it starts to roll away, and yeah. And Bitzer, well, he tells the sheep and Shaun to stay behind while he goes after to rescue and catch up to the farmer. And yeah, because with Bitzer trying to catch up to the farmer, and we see him in the caravan, he's still sleeping, very happily sleeping, you know, with all that's happening where, yeah, he's in the caravan, it's rolling on the road, and when eventually the caravan would make its way to the big city. Yeah, and with poor Bitzer trying to catch up to the farmer. Yeah. And with that going on, well, this still gives Shaun and his fellow sheep pals to still have a day off to themselves. Also, can't forget to mention the three pigs. You know, the three pigs that's always causing mischief and mischievous stuff, and yeah. Well, yeah, because some of the stuff that they would be doing in this movie, even when later on in the film, Shaun and all the other sheeps, they would make their way to the big city. Yeah, the pigs, they got into the farmer's house, and they just made it as a pig's hog. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, a pig's nest and such. You know what I'm saying? Just, yeah, make a huge mess of it. But yeah, and for Shaun and his fellow sheep pals, because that they have the day to themselves, well, at one point, they find it very difficult to withstand being by themselves at the farm without the presence of their farmer. They just find it very difficult. And that's when Shaun, he feels the need to, you know, he's the one that started this in the first place, not intentionally. And how was he supposed to know where this was going to lead to? Yeah, you know, because with, you know, the poor farmer in the caravan and be rolled away and such. Yeah. So Shaun, taking it upon himself to go by himself, to go and find the farmer himself. Yeah. Meanwhile, because, yeah, with Bitzer trying to catch up to the farmer, well, because, yeah, they would eventually make their way to the big city, and after all that, you know, the farmer in the caravan avoiding all the obstacles and such, he does eventually, when he steps outside the caravan, in fact, when he mistakenly thought he was in his bedroom, because, you know, he thought he was, like, putting on some deodorant or something, you know, spraying his armpits, but no, it was bug spray. And all this, oh my gosh, yeah. But overall, because when he steps out of the caravan, yeah, he finds himself not at his farm, and finds himself out in the middle of the street, and eventually, yeah, something hits his head, and he's out. Yeah, he's knocked out and such. And Bitzer, he showed up too late because he can see the farmer being taken away in an ambulance. And thus, yeah, Bitzer does have to catch up to the ambulance. And when they eventually make their way to the hospital, well, Bitzer, he can't go into the hospital because no dogs allowed. If you know, you know. I just had to. Because it's true. So yeah, Bitzer has to remain outside of the hospital. Poor Bitzer. You know, being very worried about his master, you know. And as I said, Shaun, you know, he's the only one that is going to go to the big city to find and bring back the farmer, as well as, you know, with Bitzer. And yeah, he tells his fellow sheep not to go with him. Although they do, yeah, because when Shaun thinks that he's by himself, he takes a bus to the big city, yeah. The other sheep, they took the bus that came by and took Shaun. Yeah, because Shaun snuck on the first bus that showed up, then they took the next bus, yeah. And, yeah, this is not a good, you know, position and such, you know, and because with the... Not only is Shaun in the city, but when he sees that his fellow sheep pals have also made their way to the big city, tagging along with him, well, Shaun discovers that, yeah, it's not quite safe being in the big city, especially since he's a sheep, because he comes face to face, well, yeah, not directly, well, yeah, not up close to this animal, but this dog, named, Slip, yeah. Slip being voiced by, and again, because no dialogue, they do grunt and such and make noise. Slip being voiced by Tim Hands. So, Slip, this homeless dog, yeah, because they make eye contact with each other. However, at one point, someone steps in and takes Slip in, and that being the main antagonist of Shaun the Sheep movie, Trumper. And Trumper being voiced by Ahmed Dajali. I think I'm getting his full name right. Yeah, and again, you know me sometimes. And, well, Trumper, he comes from the animal containment. Yeah. And he's not very, you know, friendly with animals and when bringing them in. And every time, like, you know, he would bring in an animal, he would always set up tape, like it's a crime scene or something. And yeah, by taking in the animal and from there on. And Shaun was this close. Along with his fellow sheep pals, they were this close to being spotted and caught by Trumper. And eventually they managed to dodge and avoid being, you know, seen and caught by Trumper, even at one point when they blend in with this billboard sign. However, a bit of their wool actually, you know, flocked off and, yeah, on the ground, Trumper noticing it, and, yeah, getting the sense of feeling that sheep are nearby. Meanwhile, coming back to Bitzer and the farmer, because, yeah, the farmer, by this point, yeah, well, the doctors and nurses, they discover that, yeah, the farmer has had a memory loss. He has no idea who he is, and he doesn't know what he does. He doesn't know what he does for a living. He has no idea that he's a farmer. He can't remember anything. So that's not a good sign. So, yeah, and for Bitzer, well, he did finally manage to sneak into the hospital, you know, getting into this cart, and, by making his way in and disguising himself as a doctor, well, yeah, and avoiding a couple of humans that are coming by him, even the security guards from outside, yeah. Well, he finds himself in an operating room where, yeah, he is mistaken for a doctor who is to proceed with this surgery, and... Oh, poor Bitzer, because that sequence where, you know, where he finds himself in, mistaken for a doctor, and even the patient did notice his tail, but just, yeah, but they knock him out with gas, just, yeah. And, well, Bitzer, you know, given the tools to proceed with the operation and surgery, however... because Bitzer, he's distracted by a skeleton and one of the bones, and yeah, the song plays again, You're Mine, and yeah, Bitzer, he couldn't help himself. He goes after the bone, his doggy innerness getting into him, just, yeah, and he's exposed, and yeah, off screen, because we can hear him just like, because he's obviously being taken away, and probably, yeah, by this point, Trumper, which, yeah, Trumper did show up by bringing in Bitzer. And as for the farmer, well, because actually Bitzer, before going into that operation surgery room, well, he did come face to face with the farmer, but he didn't have time to rescue the farmer and such, yeah. And the farmer didn't make any of it and didn't know it was Bitzer, yeah. And the farmer just, yeah, he starts to get worried some, even when, like, say, someone comes in with a hammer, because at one point earlier, the farmer, with his, like, they were checking his funny bone, and, he reacted to it and by throwing a knife on a picture that was hung on the wall. So, yeah, this guy coming in with a hammer, the farmer panics and, yeah, running out, but no, the guy was just coming in to fix up the portrait, with the nails, so, yeah. And after the farmer leaves the hospital, nothing else happens. Like, it's like those at the hospital probably by that point just didn't care and notice that the farmer was missing, yeah. But what would happen to the farmer next is that the farmer would find himself, noticing a barbershop place. And, yeah, but more on that later, because coming back to Shaun, Bitzer, and the others, because, yeah, with Shaun and his fellow sheep pals now in the big city, well, they do at one point have to blend in and not be caught and seen by Trumper. So they go to this fabric store, yeah, where there's clothes, and by disguising themselves, and I don't know, because, like, did they have to pay for the clothes? I don't know, but just, yeah. And, well, close calls for them at times where, yeah, Trumper thinks that they're humans, even flirting with one of the sheep. I believe, yeah, Timmy's mom, and because Trumper approaching her and telling her that, you dropped your purse. Yeah. And, well, I mean, it seems like, yeah, the disguises are working for them. So after that, and, close call for them not being discovered by Trumper, they start to go through the big city a couple of times to ask those if they've seen the farmer. Shaun took a picture of the farmer, young, actually ripped it in half, and, part of it says missing. So a little montage of them going around, holding up the picture, but, yeah, they've not seen him, and they cause some mischief. Well, not really, just, yeah, knocking some stuff down. They bite on some fruit that's on display and such, as, yeah, and making some of those angry and almost, like, at one point chasing them, but, yeah. But eventually, after all that, they would find themselves at a fancy restaurant, and, yeah, because they're hungry by this point, and they all go in, and also, can't forget to mention that Timmy, he plays the part of a backpack. Yeah, a backpack. And one of them is, like, holding his little teddy bear, so. And by the way, because, like, does anybody remember the episode of Shaun the Sheep where, yeah, because, Timmy getting a teddy bear and the farmer wanting to give the teddy bear to the cat. That was a cute and delightful one of Timmy, so yeah. But yeah, so Timmy, pretending to be a backpack and, sometimes hiding in some of the clothing that the sheep are wearing, just, yeah. So the sequence where they're at the restaurant is pretty funny, and they have no idea what to do at first, how to act as humans at a restaurant. However, at one point, there's a celebrity there that's eating at the restaurant, and he's literally called Celebrity with Hair Trouble. That's a good way to describe him. And the Celebrity with Hair Trouble being voiced by Jack Paulson. Yeah, so it looks like, yeah, the Celebrity with Hair Trouble looks like, to me, kind of looks like a fashion designer or something. I don't know, but just, I'm just simply saying, maybe you guys would probably think so too. But anyways, so in the restaurant sequence where, yeah, they actually, all of the sheep, besides Shaun, noticing how the celebrity is, is, like, say, using the menu, drinking from a cup, accidentally knocking down a utensil, they all copy what the celebrity is doing. But Shaun, and you realize that, yeah, Shaun is the smartest out of all of the other sheeps of the farm. You realize that? So, yeah. And Shaun knowing that, don't copy exactly what he's doing. Just, yeah. And they're this close to, blowing their cover. Yeah. Well, even when, like, say, yeah, I mean, at one point, Shaun actually, Timmy got distracted and such, and yeah, because Shaun had to go get Timmy and such, and Shaun's clothing got caught on something, and it starts to tear, and by doing that, well, yeah, that's when Shaun does get his identity gets blown. He's discovered, yeah, a sheep in the restaurant, and yeah, because they call the authorities, obviously they're going to call Trumper, and yeah, that's what happens. All the craziness that's happening in the restaurant, Shaun running around the restaurant, like one guy gets a fish in his head, a lobster, it got out of the fish tank, the tank of lobsters. It bit a woman's tushy, and just, God. A lot of funny and crazy stuff that happens in the restaurant. But then, yeah, Shaun does get captured and brought in by Trumper. Trumper showing up, taking in Shaun, and thankfully, the other sheep still not being discovered by Trumper, even when Trumper approaches them, and once again, handing, one of them their purse. Once again, flirting with, that sheep. Again, that being Timmy's mom. So after that, in fact, because this was sad, right? Where Timmy's teddy bear, Shaun notices it, he takes it with him, keeping it safe and sound for poor Timmy. Yeah. But yeah, so Shaun finding himself in the animal containment building, and, he just so happens to find himself being roommates with, thankfully, Bitzer. Yeah. Shaun meets with Bitzer at the place, and also seeing the other animals at the shelter, the animal containment. Well, because, yeah, like one cat with a cone, and a bunch of other dogs, even Slip. Slip is there too. So once again, Shaun and Slip reunite, and they come across each other. And this one dog that Bitzer comes face to face with on the other, the other cage and such. This one dog with this look and just like, you know what I'm talking about. Just, yeah. And he just sits there with that look all the time. And when we cut back to that dog, what's the dog's deal? Yeah. But little do we know, yeah. But we find out something about that dog during the credits. But until I get there, of course. And by the way, because there's a tortoise there and a fish in a fishbowl. Why does the fish in the fishbowl have to be in a cage? In a dog cage, just like baits me. But hey, obviously that's to be hilarious. And it is, it's just like, what? But it's still hilarious. Like, why is the fish in the... Yeah, so, anyways. But yeah, and coming back to the farmer, because yeah, by this point, the farmer, and as I said earlier, but to go into full more detail, and when that happens, the farmer finds himself, because he's, after leaving the hospital, roaming around the big city some, and at one point, he finds himself at a barber saloon and such, yeah. And the celebrity with the hair trouble, he shows up in need of fixing up his hair because, yeah, his hair did get messed up at the restaurant because of the mayhem that happened with Shaun running around. And, yeah, the celebrity with the hair trouble just, like, not happy with how his hair is. It's messed up and is in need of it being fixed up. And probably, yeah, for it to be trimmed some. The farmer was actually not satisfied, I guess, with what was going on. In fact, a little bit of his memory is starting to come back into him because he notices a razor. And he starts to remember a razor he was holding. But he only was remembering the razor, the part of the razor, and the fact that the razor that he has used to shave the sheep's wool. So, yeah. So, he makes his way into the saloon. He grabs the celebrity with the hair trouble, like pinning him down on the floor and shaving his hair like he would, shaving the sheep's wool. And yeah, even when, like, say, the celebrity with the hair troubles, security guard tackles the farmer and the celebrity was this close to, lash at him, he noticed in the mirror that actually it looks pretty good. He likes it, and everybody in the saloon claps and such, and now the farmer has become a big name in doing hair and such. Yeah. And like a little montage of him becoming famous already, being the best barber in the big city and being called Mr. X, just and even doing model photos. why specifically. Again, just, it's just, being humorous. He's even, like, one where he's, like, sitting on a chair, I presume naked. It's just, one of those. God. But, okay, but with that, just happening, yeah, because with that happened, now the farmer's become this big-time barber, being amazing at doing haircuts. Coming back to Shaun and Bitzer, because, yeah, they're still stuck at the animal containment place, and, well, at one point, like, there are these two guys that come in, it's adoption time, and, yeah, all the dogs and the cat, the fish, and the tortoise, they're hoping that they'll get adopted. One of them will get adopted. But what they adopt is a lizard. Yeah. Even, like, Trumper was not happy. I guess, because, yeah, he's not too happy about the adoption thing. And from what I can tell, and I think, yeah, that goes for all of us, judging by Trumper in this movie, he just loves capturing animals and just capturing them and just sitting there in their misery. Yeah, more than likely. And even, like, say he does this to the lizard, just, jeez. But even after that, well, yeah, because that happened, well, thankfully, the sheep of the farm do show up, yeah. So they show up, and, yeah, they're gonna help Shaun and Bitzer escape, and even, yeah, Timmy's mom, distracting Trumper, because, yeah, Trumper left her, his card, and, so she knows where to find him and such, and yeah, because they make their way there, and Timmy's mom distracting Trumper, and with that, yeah, that's when the sheep, they help break out Shaun and Bitzer, and Shaun helping Slip break out as well. And even when, yeah, one point to speed things up some, because, yeah, Trumper did eventually find out that this was all a trick and a bait and such, and realizing that, yeah, Shaun and Bitzer, they've escaped, and, yeah, even when Trumper tried to, go after them, well, he got tricked when, like, say, he thought that, there was, like, a hole in the wall. But no, that was clever chalk drawing from Shaun, so yeah. And they lock up Trumper in the cage as well, yeah. And all of the animals, even, like, say, the cat, the tortoise, and the fish, they all howl. Jeez. Even the fish, golly. And the turtle, and even the cat. Yeah. And, yeah, Trumper coming face to face with that one dog. Yeah, just... Anyways, so... all of them get out, and, yeah. And eventually, they would find out where the farmer is in the big city. And after a little montage of them, roaming through the streets of the big city, the Shaun the Sheep theme plays with the whistle. Yeah, that's great, Yeah. All right, best I can do with the whistle. But anyway, so they would find out and see a sign of the farmer, now, as a popular hair cutter. And yeah, thus, yeah, it's a miracle that they know where he is now, and thus, they go to find him and bring him back home. However, when Shaun enters the salon, salon, did I say saloon? My bad. Salon, not saloon, salon. Get it right. As I was saying, Shaun enters the salon, and yeah, when approaching the farmer, well, the farmer doesn't really have a reaction to Shaun, and, like, when Shaun approaches him, it's like, shoo, go, and, like, this is heartbreaking for Shaun and Bitzer and the other sheep, because, yeah, for the farmer to be saying this to Shaun, and just like, and Shaun's starting to tear up, like, what's happened? But they have no idea. The problem is they have no idea that the farmer has had a memory loss. So, yeah. Not to mention that the farmer, throughout most of the film, and after, being in the hospital, he still has the bandages on his head. And even when, yeah, he makes his way on a billboard, doing photo shoots as the best barber in the big city, still having those bandages on his head. Did it not occur to him or the others to remove the bandages? I don't know. But anyway, so after that, a very, emotional moment, and yeah, Shaun, Bitzer, the sheep, they all retreat, and they actually, they tag along with Slip at where she hides out. at. This underground place, yeah, down below the city. And yeah, it's a very emotional moment for them. And because, again, they have no idea. Sadly, they have no idea for now, of course, that, the farmer lost his entire memory of being a farmer and knowing who they are. And, getting a sad song. And the farmer, like, when we cut back to the farmer in the sad sequence, well, because holding the razor, but his memory, it's not getting back to him fully, and that's just sad. And even Shaun, he's looking at the ripped photo of the young farmer, and he just throws it, like, lets the wind carry it. Oh my gosh, like, by that point, they just give up on humanity. They just give up, and just, like, it's very sad, one of those things, even especially in some animated movies. But of course, that does not last that long, because what happens next, and to still speed things up some, because, well, a moment where Timmy is feeling very sad, they each try to cheer up Timmy, even by Shaun trying to play a favorite song of theirs, but, the tape runs out and just, yeah. But then, all of the sheep come together and start to sing. And somehow, the farmer in his apartment building heard this and started to sing to it as well. So that was a nice moment for them to cheer them up some, where they all got together and sing, in harmony to their favorite song. But then, when they try to warm themselves up, fire and such, well, they discover a piece of paper that actually comes from the hospital, the file and such of the farmer. And where they discover that because again, they didn't realize until now, the reason the farmer told Shaun to shoo and so on is because his memory was lost. So yeah, this gives them encouragement and such, and yeah, because, when they lost it at first, but yeah, it's back, and thus they will go back and get the farmer and do whatever it takes to restore his memory and to get him home, and the same goes for them. So, they lay out plans on what they're going to do, and basically, they start to build something, and that's going to help them get back the farmer and such, and where, they're going to make him go to sleep again, just, yeah. And even Shaun, he has Slip tag along with them. He wants Slip to join them, be a part of the family. And so, they make their way to the salon, and, because by making the farmer go to sleep, because he sees this outside of the window, they start to hop. And not only is this affecting the farmer, but it's affecting the others in the salon and others outside of the salon. Like a couple of people that were on this bus, 2 people with ice cream cones, their heads, hit the ice cream, and everybody in the salon, including the farmer, they all... So, yeah. So it works out, and thus they get the farmer, they put him on this horse that they've built, and they're all inside of it. Each of the sheep are playing the part of the horse's legs, the hooves, making it ride. And with the farmer being on top, wearing a hat like he's like a policeman and such, on a horse. And Trumper by this point, because at one point, 2 workers at the animal containment, they discover Trumper being locked up. So yeah, and Trumper, determined to get Shaun, Bitzer, and all of the sheep. This time, he's gonna frickin' tase them, electrocute them. Just, man, he's gone mad by this point. And when Trumper, comes face-to-face with them, they come face-to-face with him, Trumper does not suspect anything, and just thinks that, the farmer is this policeman on a horse, asking the policeman if he knows where, the animals are. Bitzer, Shaun, Slip, and they play the part of the farmer, moving his hands and such, but yeah. Trumper does find out that it's them. A piece of sheep wool is on the ground, and yeah. And when he gets up to the horse, his head goes through the back of the horse, the butt, and seeing all of them just... And this one guy who notices what's going on, Trumper stuck in the back of the horse and just, walks away, yeah. And yeah, just them disposing Trumper, and then leading to this chase sequence where they have to, avoid Trumper and to get out of the big city and make their way back to the farm. And by activating the wheels below the horse and activating the fire extinguisher, going into warp speed and such, basically. So yeah, that's what happens. And just, yeah, fantastic stop motion animation right here and for a chase sequence. And, yeah, not to mention that, because, yeah, like, the big city, obviously, is London, so, yeah, and I gotta keep in mind, because the farm being called Mossy Bottom, right. Okay, so, the sequence, again, just, really great with a lot of funny stuff, and them just avoiding and dodging Trumper when Trumper's trying to get to them, even, like, using a grappling gun to hold on for the ride. Just, that's great. Yeah. But eventually, and after all of that, and when they think they've gotten rid of Trumper, they've made their way out of the big city and making their way straight back to Mossy Bottom Farm. Yep, and eventually they do so. And yeah, by this point, seeing the three pigs, they've made quite a mess inside of the farmer's house. And when at one point, yeah, they notice that the farmers come back and the pigs quickly tidy up the house as best they can. Even one of the pigs, they ruined a portrait of one of the farmer's family members, and by painting a mustache to, patch up the mess, like smearing it and ruining the image. But yeah, but that's very nice of the pigs, for at least for once, and they do a pretty good job cleaning up the mess they caused in the farmer's house. Yeah. So they've all come back safe and sound, and hopefully, yeah, they'll still try to manage to restore the farmer's memory. However, Trumper has made his way to Mossy Bottom Farm, and yeah, so they tried to, avoid and hide from Trumper. They go into this in this shed, and with them the farmer, and Bitzer puts up some wood and nailing it to the door. But yeah, even when they one of the sheep takes a peep outside of a window, well, Trumper, he's unleashed the tape, and yeah, he's going to dispose all of them once and for all, using a forklift and gonna throw them off to the side of a cliff. Jeez Louise. Again, by this point, Trumper's gone mad, insanely mad. And yeah, and they're all terrified. They're all scared. And when even, say, the farmer wakes up after, having a good sleep, because a few times during, like, say, the chase sequence and the situation they're in where they're in the shed, well, the farmer, he was dreaming some things that, yeah, to go with what was going on, like the wobbliness, or just like, yeah, like he dreamt he was getting a massage, or, when he placed his head on one of the sheep, thinking it was a pillow, dreaming that he was sleeping on a pillow, just, yeah, that was great. But when he wakes up, still, has no clue and doesn't know who they are, but when he sees a reflection of himself in a window, and where all of them are up against him, they're scared, they're worried, that's when the farmer starts to remember his younger self, and with Shaun Bitzer, he now remembers who he is and who they are. He knows who he is now, again. Yeah, that's great to see. And after that, yeah, and even when he kissed Shaun and Bitzer on the foreheads, yeah, they see now, and that they know right away that, yeah, the farmer's back. He knows who he is now. And the farmer, he at one point steps outside of the shed, was gonna complain and speak to Trumper, but they were already off to the side of the cliff, and the door to the shed was facing, yeah, where the edge of the cliff is, and yeah, the farmer almost falling to his death, Bitzer catching him, as well as the sheep, yeah, stack, you know what I'm saying. And, well, Shaun, he went to stop Trumper, turn off the forklift, and yeah, but, geez, Trumper grabbing Shaun and throwing him, like Shaun gonna fall to his death being thrown by Trumper, but nope. The farmer catches him, and yeah, the farmer lets Trumper have it. And, well, with what happens to Trumper, the bull, yeah, because can't forget to mention the bull that sometimes makes appearances in anything Shaun the sheep, yeah, he steps in, and he finishes off Trumper because he sees a bit of red, I think like his red underwear or something. Yeah, it's showing, and yeah, because Bold's being attracted to red, charging at Trumper, sending him flying. Thankfully, he doesn't fall to the cliff and such, No, he lands in a pile of manure. And just like, with Biff Tannen, I hate manures! Well, that's what Trumper gets. Yep. That's the defeat and demise of Trumper in Shaun the Sheep movie. And so, yeah, everybody is safe and sound. One big happy reunion for all of them. The farmer getting his memory back. Yeah, it's great to see. All of them making their way back to their home, the farm. And, well, that is except for Slip, because Slip left a note for Shaun, because Slip decided that, she was going to, depart. But thankfully, when Shaun tried to stop and catch up to Slip, well, there's a bus that shows up, almost hits Slip, but the lady bus driver steps out and actually takes a liking to Slip, especially since both of them have a lot in common. Like, they have, like, gold teeth and, like, just overall, it's very nice. And, yeah, eventually, Slip does get adopted. That's great to see. And this is goodbye for now between Slip and Shaun. Yeah, and Slip, of course, could come back anytime to visit Shaun and the others. Yeah, but that was great to see. A nice happy ending for Slip, getting adopted finally. And then the aftermath/epilogue, well, another day at the farm, which, again, being the, Mossy Bottom Farm, yeah. The rooster, just making a cool pose when, cock-a-doodle-doo, yeah, because it's morning time, and, well, gonna start their daily routine. However, the farmer decides that, screw the routines that they do and such. Let's have some fun today. And disposing the paper, the goat eating it, because there are a few times that, there we see a goat, and the goat eating some things, it's pretty funny. And yeah, with the movie ending, we see what happens during the end credits, these photos of what the characters are doing. They have a picnic. And also, Trumper, well, no longer working at the animal containment, now being called Animal Containment Unit. It's now a paradise for all the animals at that place. And by the way, the dog that stared at each Bitzer and Trumper, well, it turns out that was a cardboard cutout of the dog, because that was basically an illusion and a trick that he was still there, because he got out. He broke through the wall of his cage cell. That's great, yeah. And for Trumper, yeah, because he finds himself, on the side of the road or something, yeah, because in the big city, dressed up as a chicken for, like, advertisement and such. That's what he gets, yeah. A funny defeat and demise for him in the end. And, seeing Slip and Shaun having some fun, Slip visiting Shaun and the others, it's very nice with that, slideshow of photos during the end credits. And also, because, a couple of more scenes that happen during the credits are pretty funny, and, even, say, when, after the credits finish, the rooster stepping in and, the end, go home, and one sheep that steps in, vacuuming, because, after everybody leaving the movie theater, obviously, just, cleaning up the mess. Of course, that was great, and, makes sense for Shaun the Sheep movie to end off on a funny note, But, Shaun the Sheep movie, it's definitely a fun, delightful, cute, entertaining stop-motion film from good old Artman themselves. Yeah, everything about it from beginning to end. The storyline, the characters, new characters that step in, like say Slip, the antagonist, Trumper, Shaun, and the rest of the characters going on a big adventure, going into the big city, and with what goes on with the farmer, what goes on with each of the characters, Trumper, whom they come face-to-face with, the hilarious and emotional moments here and there, the songs, the music and score, the fantastic, beautiful stop-motion animation from Artman, and what more do I have to say? Shaun the Sheep movie is a delightful film, another excellent film from Aardman, definitely. And I'm giving Shaun the Sheep movie, yeah, why not? Yeah, 9 out of 10 stars. Yes, 9 out of 10 stars for Shaun the Sheep movie. And what about you guys? What did you think of Shaun the Sheep movie itself? Any of you that have grown up and watched Shaun the Sheep before the movie? Do you remember when the movie came out? Did any of you get to see this in theaters? Did you enjoy it? And all the other Shaun the Sheep materials that would come after the Shaun the Sheep movie, the other special short films that they would have, and the later Shaun the Sheep movies, What were some of your favorite moments from Shaun the Sheep movie? Who are some of your favorite characters? And with the new characters that we see in Shaun the Sheep movie, did you get some good laughs? Did you get a bit teary-eyed? Overall, what do you think of Shaun the Sheep movie itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Shaun the Sheep movie. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. Take care. Happy anniversary to Shaun the Sheep movie, and until I review Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon, peace out.